Hello, Strange Gravity. We've got Grant and Williem. Thank you so much for joining us on the BOOcast. How are you tonight?
We are great. Yeah. Thanks so much for having us on tonight, Battery Operated Orchestra. It's absolutely brilliant.
Pleasure.
Grant, you're happy?
Yep, I'm happy.
Yeah, we're both delighted.
We're here mid-rehearsals.
Oh, fantastic. So are you in Silver Shark Studios at the moment?
We are in the control room or Synth Cave 2 in Silver Shark Studios, yeah.
So, Grant, we first met way back in 2017 in Hansetone on a tour of those studios in Berlin.
That's right, yeah.
Just started talking in the gift shop.
Yeah, I think we were all eyeing up the same T-shirts probably.
Yeah.
Yes, we were.
Did you get one?
I did, yeah. I've still got it.
Us too.
Quality.
Dig it out occasionally, yeah.
We bonded over electronic music back then, and I was wondering what first drew you to electronic music?
I mean, I've liked electronic music as long as I've liked music, really, I think. It was way back, I'll be giving away my age here, but way back in the very late 70s, early 80s, when bands like the Human League and Gary Newman started to come through, that I really started to get into it.
Yeah. Was there a first track that really hit you? My mum had a Bach album, and the last track was Wendy Carlos, Toccata in Fugue in D minor. I think I was 4 when I heard that. Do you have anything similar like that? I mean, maybe
nothing like that. I mean, my parents weren't big music fans, and the music they liked tended to be more. My mum was a big Johnny Cash fan.
Oh, cool.
I think for me it was probably something like Newman the first time he was on Top of the Pops, or maybe the Human League. It's difficult. I was a big sort of Newman fan around the time of Our Friends Electric and Cars, and I used to work in a record shop, so I kind of got to see all these records and then found some more. The other guys that worked in the shop would say, oh, if you like that, you should check this out. Possibly the Human League. Human League were the first band that I saw live.
Oh, wow. So what era did you see them?
On the Dare tour. So that would be 81.
Oh,
Just around the time Don't You Want Me went mega.
Williem, so you're the vocalist with Strange Gravity. I was just going to are you a similarly electronic obsessed, or have you got a different kind of musical history? Because you've sung with a few other acts.
Yeah, my background was very much, it came from the classical side to start with. I was trained from about 7, violin player, piano player. But I do remember with the electronic music, I think the first exposure to it actually for all of us was Doctor Who and the radiophonic workshop with Delia Derbyshire or whatever her name is, which I think always went in as, wow, that's quite unusual. And I don't think we thought about it because it was just the theme tune and the great visual.
Yeah.
But I realised now looking back that was probably the kickoff. But like Grant, being at as we call them, discos, and hearing Gary Newman up, on a proper sound PA without any of that health and safety bollocks that we have these days, no offense to anybody. It just meant that we really had the opportunity to hear synth really, really loud.
Yeah.
But my background then went into more punk, more rock, more guitarist. That's what I am. That's what I continue to play. But I always had this deep love for the sound of electronica.
Yeah.
Gary Newman, like Grant, being the first one. And almost the only one then until I came across Japan when they had assemblage and Gentlemen Take Polaroids out. And then I went, wow, it's also got the rock thing, like Mick Karn. I'm a bass player, and Mick Karn was a phenomenal bass player. So I could see there was a hook over. So I think for me it was that journey. And then eventually getting back into synth stuff with Grant has been a real joy.
So do you play bass as well?
Yeah, so bass is my instrument. That's what I'd been known for. Gigs that I did supporting bands like Placebo at Brixton Academy. That was my bass guitar years. And they continue with a different band, but for this stuff, what's unique about it is the vocal that I bring versus any of the bass playing and stuff like that.
Do you have frets on your bass or not? I'm thinking the Mick Karn influence. How strong is it?
No, it's
and how many strings do you have? Any more than 4 is not allowed.
No, I've plenty of frets, but my actual real fascination with Mick Karn was that dance he did. Do you remember when he would just glide across the stage? Yeah. And young people today I know would just drop dead if they could actually see someone do that. You just don't see anyone do that while playing one of the fast up-tempo Life in Tokyo or something.
So you've been working together as Strange Gravity since 2020. How did you guys meet and what brought you together musically?
We met through a mutual friend that in one of my older studios before I moved to this one, I was recording an album of hers, and she was a friend of William's, and then
My vocal coach.
She was your vocal coach, that's right. And then Williem was doing a solo album at the time, and he was looking for a producer and somebody to help him kind of finish it off, and she recommended me. So we did that album in
2017.
2017.
17, yeah.
And just got on.
Yeah.
So kind of always talked about doing something together, but never really got anything off the ground until kind of lockdown. We started something just before lockdown, and we had kind of one track.
We had one track which made it onto the first album. I think the thing that I really enjoyed was it was a real opportunity and a challenge for me because I came from a classically trained background. My degree was in classical music. I'd played in orchestra for years. The thing with Grant was he completely ignored all the rules that I had been brought up with. And he would say, right, the song starts here and then it goes down one semitone and that's the key change. And you can't do one semitone key change. That's ridiculous. but the way he would do it and the music he would make that key change in, for me, would work. And so it was a real challenge to actually say, okay, if this is how you want to go about it, then for me, it was that great no more comfort zone of here's the guitar, just write a song on that, or here's the piano. It was actually, no, you're just getting synth pieces. And I still have the originals that Grant would send through in lockdown, because of course we were both stuck, me in North London and Grant in South London.
It must have been a real sort of change of pace for you, working in a different way. And so far as Strange Gravity, you've released 2 albums. There's the eponymous debut in 2020, which, as you just said, was during lockdown. We'll come back to that. And then this year, Music for the Metaverse. But we're just going to ask about your process during the first one, because you've already mentioned that it was kind of a baby of the lockdown experience. So how did that work out for you? How did it come together?
Basically, I
Very
was
complicated. We're not getting into that. I
was either here or at home, and just had all these little bits of instrumental music. And then because certainly during that first lockdown, you couldn't really do anything. So I was just maybe had a 2-minute bit of music, and then we'd just be chatting, and I'd say, I'll send you this. I think it's probably going to be an instrumental, but see what you can come up with. And that almost became a challenge for Williem. So I was sending him these kind of instrumentals, thinking, I might get an instrumental album out of this or something. And then he was sending me quite often the next day or a couple of days later, the instrumental piece of music I'd done with some vocals over the top.
Yeah. So the process was really that straightforward. He would challenge me, not realizing it, by saying, I just think it's an instrumental. And I'd go, no, I'll make that into something that kills me. Again, I just had the joy of being challenged to come up with lyrical and melodic material vocally that really complemented what Grant had created. And then I had a small home studio affair, some good mics, which I'd used for the album I'd done by a solo with Grant. So I had a setup that I could at least do the vocals at home in North London. And of course, there was no challenge on our time. Nobody was saying you should be out washing the car or taking the kids to the park. You know, it was very much, well, you're doing nothing else, so you might as well go upstairs and use a studio. So that's really how the process began for the album 1. And I think sort of established what we are both comfortable with. We've tried for Music for the Metaverse doing more of the let's jam together, and it wasn't as productive as we thought it was. Not that we won't come back to it, but yeah, for now the process is very much, here's something made out of synthesizer music, see what you think of it. I'd cut it up, rearrange it. Sometimes not. There's been the odd track, which literally Norway I think is a great example of. 4 a.m. in the morning, we were desperate for one last track for Music on the Metaverse, and I said there must be something on the backlist, and out came Norway, and it became the track almost just as is. All I did was with a vocal and lyric for it.
That was magic when that happened.
So what was happening with the first album was Williem was sending me back these
amazing songs is what you're looking for.
amazing vocals like I'd never heard before. And then I would maybe do a bit of editing on those, or change the arrangements and add more synths, or change some of the voicing. And then when we were able to get together, so this probably went on for about
it was actually 4 weeks, because I actually timed it from the first track that Grant sent through, which was called Day One, up until the last one, which was Day something or other.
Yeah. Imagine if that
there was 4 weeks. So the actual first album was done more or less in 4 weeks in terms of the original material. It was very quick. And I think it did benefit from the fact that there was nothing else to think about. There was nowhere to go. It was a unique moment in all our lives, and it, in some ways, if there was a positive, and obviously there was lots of negatives for very many people, but for us it was a positive in that it did allow us, particularly me, to really consider, what do I want to talk about? What do I want to sing about?
Yeah. Do you think that perhaps because it was a whole new project without any sort of predefined shape or form, that you were free to just explore with it, and as it was such a new process for you as well?
Yeah, definitely.
I love
liberating.
It. So let's have a listen to
What the Night Brings.
What the Night Brings,
Baby, I remember the day that he was born. Tried to make it right for you, but you did it on your own. Lit a cigarette, raised a glass to you. Raised myself up like a man's supposed to do. Drove all night, slept all the next day through. Took away your pain when I got back to you. I know I'm looking back, I know you don't want me to, but you won't let me hold you, but I know you need me to. Like a day without the sun, like flowers thrown out to sea. Nobody knows what brought you to your knees. How'd you say goodbye when you don't know what that means?
Williem, you suffered a vocal injury before recording the new album. How have you recovered your voice, and have you had to modify your vocal technique since then?
Interestingly, I started rehearsing again just in February after lockdown, and so that was probably 6 to 9 months after finishing Strange Gravity 1. And there was no voice. I could talk and I expected my voice to be there, but it was literally like, you know, Chris, yourself, when you go and look for the Hoover and you open the cupboard and it's not there. It's like, where's the vacuum cleaner? I know I left it here, but my voice wasn't there. It was that empty. There was just nothing. And it wasn't for another 6-7 months that I even got a consultant to look at it. And it still didn't come back. It just felt like there was a ball of cotton wool at the bottom of my throat. What eventually we got to the bottom of was there was a cyst on the sulcus that they think burst and just kind of froze out, if you like, just stopped the sulcus that vibrates and makes a sound moving.
Yeah, what is the sulcus?
Sulcus, S-U-L-C-U-S. I sound like an expert. I only know because it happened to me, as it were. The sulcus is just a very, very fine membrane that is actually on the vocal cords, and it's that ripples that actually makes the voice sing. That's the notes. and the character of your voice. And because mine's, as they said, was a bit like cellophane or cling film that was solid, it just didn't move. So I could speak, but I could only speak at a certain volume. I couldn't project, and I couldn't sing at all. It just then gradually came back because, much as I'm a huge fan, the NHS, challenged as it was with COVID, it meant it was over 2 years of in and out to see specialists and things, cameras up the nostril and down the throat. And eventually they said, look, you do have a little groove there, but nothing we would operate on. By which time, I think my last session was this year, actually. And the surgeon just said, look, I'm not going to operate. The challenge for me was when we really wanted to start getting music for the metaverse done. My voice, to your question, Bridget, was very, very limited. And so you'll hear on Strange Gravity 2 quite a lot of low vocals, which even as we're rehearsing now, I'm struggling with because they're so low. But that's where the voice started to come back. So it is one of those unique elements. And we did think, do we go back and re-record? By the time we got to the end of the album, the voice was almost back. I'm still missing quite a chunk of falsetto, but most of the voice was back. And we just thought, no, it's what it sounded like at the time. That gives its unique character. Let's keep it, and
absolutely,
we'll rehearse around it in the way we need to.
I mean, you certainly do have a smoky, soulful. Are you saying you're having some difficulty now? You're rehearsing for live to attain that damaged voice sound.
To go back and sound knackered. I can't do it. So I'm on the brandies, packing a Camel,
20 mile per day.
Yeah,
that period. I mean, I just want to ask what it was like for you, having been a singer for so long, not being able to access your voice as a part of your life for, at least 7 months.
It was a real shock, absolute shock, and really hard to, the first, when I really realized it was gone, it was a genuine fear that set in, like, finding yourself, maybe you remember being lost for the first time, separated from your folks, not knowing where you are. It was that same sense of absolute fear, because I'd often said to people, of all the joys that I have in life, being able to sing is one of them. And suddenly it just wasn't there. So it really was a gripping fear. And then, of course, you get on Google and all sorts of crap comes up. But in the end, it was actually the consultant at the Whittington Hospital in London said, actually, I think because of COVID and you weren't out singing a lot and gigging a lot, you probably did your voice a favour over this period. So that was another way to look at it.
Okay.
Just you were able to recuperate.
Yeah.
I mean, it was interesting as well because we had kind of the framework of the album almost there musically, but we couldn't do any vocals.
Yeah.
And people were saying, when's the new album? Because it was originally our plan to almost, because we're not doing an album then doing massive tours, it was like an album, then the following year, the next album, and, try and do one a year. And with the delay with the voice, people were saying, when's the new one coming? What's happened? And we're like, well, it will be soon, but we've just got to wait.
Yeah.
Oh, that's difficult.
So once you got the voice all together and you started working, was the second album the same plain sailing? Was it 4 weeks, the first album? Obviously, minus the medical emergencies. Was it a different experience? Was it the difficult second album?
It was, I think.
It really was.
It was that difficult second album for a number of reasons. I mean, not least the fact that obviously we were out of all of the restrictions that were there in the first album were gone. So I was trying to get the studio back up and running and had all the stuff associated with that going on. Williem obviously had work and family and everything. So it was very difficult to almost say, right, we're going to dedicate 4 hours a day to just doing this. And then with the vocals not being there, that kind of delayed things. And then I am also terrible for tinkering. So what was happening was we had a song that we were happy with musically, but because we couldn't put a vocal on it or couldn't get the vocal finished, I would then get a day free and would start playing with it, and it would turn into something different, or it would completely change. Wow. And then Williem would come down and go, what have you done? I've written the vocals to this. Let's go back.
Do you have a problem with finding when to stop, Grant?
Yes. I do.
Does
Grant
Williem help?
You know, if there's no specific deadline on me, then I'll just try this synth, or a new synth will come into the studio, and then you go, oh, and then you get a sound, you think, oh, that would work on that song, and before you know it.
Yeah. So there's often days that I would leave the studio and I'd say, you leaving now, Grant? They'd say, yeah, just be a minute. And then, I'll be at home an hour later in North London and I'll just get a WhatsApp. Just let me know what you think of this. So he'd obviously stayed another hour and a half, 2 hours in the studio, at a synth, making new music when he should have just, get some rest. I never suffered that so much because I'm not a naturally, like I play the synth in the band that I'm given, that I'm allowed to play. There, you play that. And
Which
it's a little
synth
one
is
over
that,
there.
by the way? Which one is it?
It's the
Live, it's going to be a Microkorg XL.
Microkorg.
Oh, cool.
No shame in that.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
Very good synth.
it's what he keeps saying, but I think everyone's laughing behind my back. But anyway, so I would not have the issue because I would never know where the music could go next. So I would just say, I just want to hear the song in it.
Did you have to put your foot down on the final versions at any point and say, we got to go back to this one?
Yeah, sometimes there'd be something I'd think, I have no idea why you went down that route. I said, what were you thinking?
What have you done?
Yeah, what were you thinking? Oh my God.
Do you know what? It's like looking in the mirror.
Yeah,
It's very similar
it is
here.
a bit.
It's very useful to have someone there to just go, stop.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, trying loads of different things and seeing where it goes, but sometimes you do need to go back and go,
Yeah.
actually, here was
Yeah,
fun.
because I'm sure you guys, have been around bands long enough, like we all have, to know that sometimes the demo version's the best.
Oh, yeah.
And that applies in synth and electronica exactly the same. Sometimes that initial sound was the right one. And I know, Grant, you were saying it was difficult getting some of the sounds to do it live.
I mean, that's been one of the challenges is,
Yeah.
and I've revoiced quite a few things just because I don't want to go out with some of the keyboards here. I wouldn't take out of the studio either because they're too fragile or, they don't have memories. So I'd spend all my time just changing the sounds.
So, Grant, I mean, you have described yourself as a synthaholic.
Yeah, probably.
I think we can all understand that. So, I mean, you run Silver Shark Studios. This is the control room, but I've seen photos of the rest of the complex you have there, and it's absolutely stuffed with some classic synths. So I'm just going to ask you, if you were forced to run from a burning building with one synth, is there one that is so close to your heart that you wouldn't? I'm guessing it's the Microkorg XL, yeah? That's the one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, or the VL tone maybe.
Oh, yes.
I don't know. I have been asked that a lot. I mean, I would probably counter that with, if I was running from that burning building, what would I be doing next? Because if it was something where I needed lots of voicing, then it might be even something like the Prophet X that we're going to use live, which is great because it's got so much capability. Or the three synths that we're using live are all very new synths and not traditional synths. 3.5. You've got the Korg, yeah. I'm using a Williem System 8 basically to get all the voicing from so the Juno 6 would be one that would probably be close to the door, put it that way, because it's so simple to get brilliant sounds out of it. But we're also using a Arturia Astrolab because it's got things like the CS80 sounds. I'd need some friends to help me get the CS80 from the building if it was burning down.
We're playing a gig on November 30th at Chats Palace.
Together.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Thank you, guys.
What's it been like for you transitioning from the studio to the live rig?
You can pick up first, Grant.
Well, it's been interesting. It's been a lot of work because, as we said, we didn't write the songs by sitting in a room playing them together. So we've had to work out what we're going to play. I mean, there's two of us, so I don't think we're going to shatter anybody's illusions by saying that, it's not 100% as you see it on stage. There will be some stems running, some backing tracks, drums, etc. But we've had to work out what we'll play, how we'll play it, what we'll use, because obviously, unless I want to look like Rick Wakeman circa mid-70s, we can't take all the synths that we used on the albums out for live. So that's been interesting. And just, I haven't played live for a very long time either. So just getting my head around remembering parts and setting up even simple things like setting up program changes and stuff that you guys would be used to doing because you play quite a bit.
We've done it a lot, but each time it's a new setup, it still takes a while. It's getting more streamlined now though, isn't it? Because we're using the same rig. We used to change the rig every time.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's very much about get it as simple as possible because, I mean, there are some schools of thought, different schools of thought on this and how you do electronic music. This is one of the interesting things about talking to people that are playing electronic music live because there are no two people that do it the same way. It's always different. Yeah, so our modus operandi is very much to keep it as simple as possible so that, it's all about performing. It's the performance and we're not cheating per se.
No.
I don't have a problem with running some stems and running loops and clips and launching clips and stuff because frankly there is no way you could bring your entire arsenal out with you apart from anything else. I mean, we'd all be on stage with broken backs and broken arms and you were talking about carrying a CS80 possibly, but that's not going to happen.
There's always that nightmare scenario which happened to adult live. Someone spilled a pint of beer all over their instruments, and if you don't have insurance.
Actually, it was over their laptop.
Over their laptop.
Which was, I believe, running the entire show. And they didn't have a backup.
That was one of the things that I thought about long and hard was whether to use a laptop. In the end, we're not using a laptop, partly because my laptop's quite old, so I was worried it might give up halfway through the show or suddenly go, oh no, you need to update your version of whatever you're running. And we're using a hard drive machine that will run some stems, it will run some MIDI, it will run the program changes, and it will also run the video that we're going to use as well. We wanted to have some visuals as well because we figured people would get a bit bored just looking at two old blokes playing some synthesizers.
Never.
That's been a big part for us. Is there's the third man in the band is the visuals. We always were certainly I know I was from the get-go that video was massively important to how we would optically articulate the lyrical content. And we did 4 videos for the first album, but every song in this live set will have a video to go with it. And some of those we've had made for us and some of them we've put together ourselves. And that's been as much fun in some ways as making the whole thing sound live, which has been really good.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. We're really looking forward to it. Tickets are selling really well.
Before you move on, I'm interested to know, what is this device that is managing all those functions?
It's doing video and stems, you're saying?
Video, stems. It's called a BOOcast. It's literally the size of a box of chocolates. But it's a very powerful box, and so far, touch wood, has worked really well in rehearsals.
So it's rock solid, yeah?
It's very solid. You can program it up so you can schedule the show, schedule the gaps. You can even stick stills or videos up in between times if you want to start chatting away. And
it's neat, yeah.
So it's a very nice box.
Like we say, just so much is dependent on things being rock solid and that you can trust them, because you don't want to really be on stage, part of your brain going, oh, what's going to break next? I mean, that's a form of entertainment, watching that happen. I admit, I've seen it happen. In fact, we saw someone playing with their laptop a couple of months ago, and in the middle of it, Apple decided to do an auto update on the screen, and it was
that's
the video,
what I was worried about.
And the stuff. Yeah. It's like, you've got all these things that you have to subscribe for, and your subscription just ran out in the middle of a gig.
Lots of people said use Ableton, but I'm not an Ableton user, so I didn't want to use something that I wasn't comfortable with. We may move to using a laptop in the future, or something like an MPC.
Are you MPC savvy?
Not really. We have one here, but I'm not. Again, it would run the show. It wouldn't run the video. It would run everything else. But not being comfortable if it stopped halfway through or didn't do what I was expecting. I just want it to be as simple as possible.
Yeah. Good call. And again, so this is very much a brand new setup for you as well. So you've evolved this setup for this gig on the 30th of November. So it's really exciting to see. I mean, you're going to be practicing the hell out of it, apart from for yourselves, but you want to make sure that stuff's all working. So good luck with that.
Thank you.
And after this gig, are you guys planning on doing more shows?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of time investment for one night. And what's going through our heads is the idea that we could make it more portable And ultimately, as I'm sure you guys would appreciate, getting a slot on Superbooth would be ideal.
Yeah.
Next year, or some other electronica.
Maybe Machina Bristronica.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure what we do as a debut is also quite unequivocally high end, which is what we're trying to achieve, to faithfully reflect the respect we have for the albums that we've made. And therefore, anything else we would do in Europe or wherever, we would like it to be as high end as possible. So, love to do more of it. I think the challenge for us is, obviously, we want to find the kind of event that we will get that attention and that support and that deep listening community around it, rather than, we're at a stage in our musical careers where we don't need to turn up and hope for a 5-minute slot at something. At the same time, we don't want to diss anything that's trying to be new, like the EMOM stuff. Some of it we've been to in London, which has been great, with, I think it's Lucida Records, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we are thinking that we might almost to try out some of the stuff from album number 3 is do a kind of cut back setup that we can do 15 minutes at an EMOM or shorter notice gigs. So that might be when a laptop or a MPC comes into play with just one synth or something. I'm quite keen. I don't want to take the modular rig out, but there's little boxes and elements of that I'd be quite keen to use live. I'm hoping with the next album, what we've talked about is, because we've got the Synth Cave here, which is all the old, really old stuff, and the huge System 100M modular setup, is we would quite like, having said we didn't really jam much, we'd quite like to do a few days of jamming and then cut and edit it up.
Yeah, so you're still really exploring your process and stuff, and you're still growing and developing, which is really exciting. If you do want to play Superbooth, bringing a bunch of modular with you will certainly count in your favour, because that's their bag, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the gig that you guys are playing, and thank you very much, very kindly, for asking us to
thank you
support
for playing with us
on the 30th. No, it was a pleasure. So all the proceeds for that gig are going to charity. So we've got Dementia UK and New Ways, which is working on water projects and health projects in parts of Africa. I was just ask, why is it important to you that this is very much a charity-driven event, or a charity funding event?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons for it. The first one was, when we're going out to play our first debut, our first performance, obviously we're an unknown entity. And I thought, well, look, that means we're going to have to invest in the venue, etc. But rather than then get any sense of, well, how do we, create a revenue stream from it, let's just say, look, let's make it for charity. There are charities that we both are very committed to with New Ways and Dementia UK. So it just takes that whole discussion piece away. We're not trying to, scrimp around budget. We're just saying, no, our budget's our budget, but the event is for charity. I had a view, which I know Grant sort of poked both my eyes out, even the bad one, and said, look, the thing is, I would love at our level of our lives to be able to do gigs only for charity. Imagine Oasis did only those gigs next year just for charity. And I think rather than have this constant, the music business is terrible to artists and all the rest of it, which of course it's true in many ways, wouldn't it be great if artists like us who've got this certain stage in their life, we can just say every time we play, it's for charity, and it might be a different charity next year. So that was part of my thinking as well. So obviously you're hoping you get good attendance, but you also get money for the charities. And eventually you just have a nice break even where some of the costs could be met over the longer term.
Because it's our first gig, obviously we're kind of asking a lot of friends and family and whatnot, who are all very supportive and say they love the album, but maybe wouldn't normally go and see it live. But we just figured, because it's for charity as well, then we're kind of saying, well, come and see us, but you're also, you'll get a warm, happy feeling because you've donated some money to charity.
And the tickets
as well.
aren't too much. I think it's £11 something.
Yeah,
£10 plus
fee.
booking fee. So £11.50 or something, I think.
Oh, the dreaded booking fee.
The dreaded booking fee, but no dynamic pricing.
Yeah.
Not yet, anyway.
What do you guys have planned next then?
Yeah. So album number 3, we've kind of written a lot of the song titles for. It's called American Melancholy. I spend a lot of time from a work point of view with good friends and colleagues from America, and also going to America and watching what's happening with America at the moment and the challenges it has around its place in the world. It's just interesting that I thought actually there's quite a melancholy about America, but when I said that to some American friends, they all got the hump and said, "There's no such thing, Americans aren't melancholic." And I went, "You've just sort of proved the point." So it's really trying to, in the same way, music for the metaverse. Lyrically, I really wanted to put people inside a metaverse experience, immersive experience, and obviously, if we had lots of budget, we'd do lots of different things around that. But it was to take them outside of the here and now and put them in something that they can then draw back from after the album's finished. With American Melancholy, it is really trying to put a mirror up to some of the things that we all are asked to pay attention to about America. And every time I hear something else from one of my friends in the States, or a headline that just grabs my attention. I mean, we saw all the reading the dogs, the reading the cats things that came out of Trump stuff. It's very different to that, but it's that sort of approach where they almost create their own sound bites. And so that's what the next album is going to be. And I think I'd love to get to that third album. And I always knew once we started really getting seriously behind the first album, I thought this is definitely going to be a 3-album journey at least.
So an album for interesting times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to hearing that. And so you're writing it now. Can I push you for a release date or a rough ETA?
You were going to ask for that.
Sometime next year, perhaps?
That's the hope.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe towards the end of next year.
That'd be amazing.
But if anyone wants to go and listen to you, where should they go?
Spotify, Bandcamp, all the usual digital platforms.
Yeah, shout out to Electronic Records that distributed music for the Metaverse this time around for us. Paul Crone and the team. That was great to get that done properly, as it were. So we're very pleased with that, and I'm sure Paul and Electronic will do the same for us next year.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing a bit of your journey with us. We're really looking forward to the gig and the next album coming out, hopefully next year.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome.
Yeah, well, as we keep saying, you have to come up and visit us sometime.
Well, we'll be seeing you in November, so
we will.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks
Thank
again,
you so much.
Thank you.
See you very soon.
Bye.
See ya.
Take care.